Change begins in your own backyard. Change begins in your own backyard. Then from your backyard or your home, then it's your community. And then you expand out from there. The things that I'm going to talk about will not be popular among black people, and black people may think I hate them. No, I don't. I love my people. I love everything about us, but I also love all people. I don't think that we have a right as black people to be holding other people accountable for certain things. While there are people who try to block and try to hinder growth and opportunities, those individuals are really the minority. Now, I say this and I'm keeping in mind that there are people on different parts of the world who are experiencing oppression, racism, biases on a greater scale. So it's not just a matter of trying to elevate yourself and to do more. Literally, these people will be trying to kill them and kidnap and butcher them. So their fight is different. But we have black people who are not experiencing anything like that in America and in other places on the western side of civilization. And there's this constant cry, an outcry of racism and the white man and this, that, and the other. But the change begins with you. I dare say that most black Americans and people in other countries like the UK and into places like that, you guys have a lot of opportunities. But let me stay in my own area that I know that I've grown up in America. And there are lots of opportunities, but we're reaching this time where there are just a lot of people who are doing a lot of complaining, and they're blaming the white man, and they're talking about the past. But as I said before, you were not born in that time. You have no idea what that was like, other than what we've read about, which is absolutely horrific. But you've never gone through that. You have no idea what it's like to be lashed across your back with any whip. You have no idea what it's like to go and pick cotton. You have no idea what it's like to have your family sold, watch your husband being sodomized, what they call breaking the bull. You have not had your little child ripped from your arm and taken from you. You know nothing of that. So I find it kind of ironic where people do this and they try to really use those examples in today's society where black people have so many opportunities. While racism exists, while there are Karens who are racist and Barons who are racist, and they're doing these things, these individuals that come out and behave that way, guys, once upon a time it would have been a gang of people doing it and it would have been okay. But it's not okay. That's why when it goes online, these individuals, they get chastised, they lose their jobs. We have to keep a balance here. While there's a blind eye's turned and nothing happens, more often than not, that type of behavior is not okay. But yet people, they go back into lynchings and the KKKs and the things of the old days as if you were there. You were not there. We were not there. We know nothing about that. And racism today, I believe, yes, it is a terrible thing. I think that people who make racist comments, it should be considered as terrorist threats, because that's what it is. If you think people deserve to die and they deserve to be killed, and that's hate talk. There's nothing different than those, places in other countries where we're labeling them as terrorists, but then people can do the same thing right in America and it's going to be different, right? So, but more often than not, there is plenty of opportunities for you to excel and to succeed. Some people, their situations are worse than others, but most black people you can do something. You have more opportunities than any slave would have ever had. So you can't use their argument for where you are today. Change begins at home. Change begins in your house, in your backyard, in your community, and then it expands out. And I say this because there's a lot of outcry about racism, but Black people use racist terms against each other all the time. The N word is a term of endearment. How? That word was used to insult those, our ancestors and those before us. This was the word that was being used to and calling them all types of names, and that was one. So, yet and still that is being embraced. Let's talk about our music. Well, it's not my music because I don't claim it, but rap music, and not just rap music, some R&B stuff. If you listen to the lyrics, what are they talking about? But specifically rap. There's a lot of things about violence and killing and blowing somebody's brains out, and drugs and alcohol and sex and calling women bees and hoes and all of this stuff. And the N-word is just all up and through it. And that is supposed to be okay. You can't be talking about racism. We can talk about racism, but what about the racism that's perpetuated by Black people? The N-word is never forgotten because a lot of Black people use that word towards themselves. Black Americans, I will say. Because I don't hear that type of stuff or those names so much around Jamaican people. Every now and then you may hear they say something that's, every now and then if they just get into something with somebody, they say something off, something crass. But that's not a common name that you hear in Jamaica or among other minority groups, if you want to say. But that was something I did not even know. The first time that anybody ever spoke to me about my skin color was in America, and in black people, telling me I'm dark, or telling me I'm so pretty to be dark, or they didn't know dark people can have nice skin, or dark skinned people can have nice hair. It was really odd. But to get back on task, I think the blame game of the white man and colonialism, that's old, and that's an excuse. That's me saying that. Because there's way too many opportunities. But what happens is, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, Black people, and not all, so I won't say all, but there's a group of Black people that they want to hate white people and they want to talk about what they did. Never been there, never experienced any of that stuff. Okay? And nevertheless, they're still attacking one another, brutalizing one another, mistreating one another. It's like the crabs in the barrel thing going on. You're going to run out there and you're going to walk out of schools and you are going to call up whatever activists on speed dial because someone said something that sounded racist, but you guys will call each other the N-word all day, insult one another, call each other black and ugly, disrespect each other, shoot each other, kill each other, maim one another, abuse your ladies, abusing your men, abusing your children, calling your children racial slurs and bad words. But it's different because it's coming from a Black person. That is a very ignorant way to think. So let's go out there and stop all the white people. But it's okay But you won't boycott or you won't do any sort of movement to get this word out of these songs and lyrics that has these words, these movies that pushes this word and pushes stereotypes. You won't say anything when you're thinking white people are looking at black people and have these stereotypes, but then you go and you paying to go watch movies that continues to portray black people in a stereotype way. Loud, obnoxious, baby mama, all this different stuff going on, fighting, violence, jail, gold, tooth gold, everything. You're gonna go see that. Talking in Ebonics, broken English, all of this stuff, that's okay. But you're keeping these stereotypes going, you're behaving this way to one another, and then you're going to blame the white man, but you all continue to perpetuate hatred among each other. It just does not make any sense to me. We can no longer be, well, I've never blamed white people for stuff, okay? I call things out as it is, because there are races, but they are more polarized than what you think. There are people who are they are very hateful, they're racist, but you see them going to jail. You see some of them get away, but they don't all get away. And so we have to address that. We have to talk about that. But we can't, you just can't keep blaming white people for everything. A lot of that stuff, y'all are doing it. Let's put it like this. Some of you that are bettering yourselves and really trying to do well, and you go somewhere and you may get some shade. Someone is mistreating you and behaving in a way that's not fair, and probably could be because of your skin color. But ever thought that maybe that person just is being rude? They just don't want to be nice. At the same time, yes, it could be racism. But let me give you some news flash. When you go around, you know you've never robbed, you've never lied. Well, you've never robbed, you've never stolen. You may have lied or never have told a lie in your life, but okay. You know that you are really doing everything the right way. When you go somewhere and you experience racism, yes, it may just be that that person is a racist. But other times you can thank your fellow black sister or brother for that. Because the reason why some black people who go somewhere and they're experiencing racism or they're experiencing discrimination is because of the way your people act. It's because of the experiences that they had at that hotel when a group of black people went there and wrecked everything and attacked some people or tried to do something dishonest. They weren't racist. They welcomed them and they went in there and did something. So now they have PTSD. Now there's an impression that's been made. So you come there, you're going to do everything correctly. You have never done any of these things. You walk in there, they're going to treat you that way. You go to a restaurant. Yes, they could be racist, but maybe you need to thank your brother and sister who went there before. These people were welcoming and nice, but they were in there acting like straight donkeys, being disrespectful, being harassing, giving the wait staff a hard time, and it left an impression on those people that now you come along, they're thinking you're the same way. Because truth be told, there's a lot of times people look at every white person to say, oh, they're racist. Why? Because of stuff that's happened in the past. So you'll think that this person's racist. The same way whenever you get a new female boss in, you're going to think, oh my gosh, because of the last female boss that you had or somewhere else that you worked you had a female supervisor, you will remember something. You may go somewhere and you see that you have a you You've been used to working with Spanish people, and you think it's going to be great, and all of a sudden you go somewhere and you realize that there you have an Indian supervisor, and then based on an experience you've had with someone who's Indian, you just see this Indian supervisor coming, you're like, oh my gosh. So it is the same thing. Sometimes the things that Black people may experience is not always racism, but recollection or something that's happened because of your brother and sister, because of the other Black people that went in there and behaved a certain way, that they begin to think all Black people are like that. When you go into the beauty shop and they're following you all around, you can think your brothers and sisters, the ones that you see on that printout that they have in front of the beauty supply store showing you, have you seen this person? And I know other races do this, because it's not only Black people you see on there, but I'm talking about Black people right now because that's who I know. You can thank them for, now they're following you around the store, they're not being nice to you, because you have brothers and sisters, other Black people that went in there has been stealing, disrespecting them, harassing them, and so they think we're all that way. Sometimes the animosity that we experience is not always stemming from racism, but because of those who want to go in there and act a donkey. Sometimes the things that you are experiencing where they don't want to hire you is because they experienced when they hired somebody who was your brown color or whatever shade of brown you are, light. Black people, we have many different shades. So light skin, dark skin, whatever your skin was, they went there, they didn't do their job, they didn't do things properly, they kept complaining to the union, they were late, they were obnoxious, they were threatening, and it makes it hard for you. So I have to paint a bigger picture that it is not always that people are racist. But when you look and you look around your community and see how people act, that's the problem. There needs to be a change on the inside. You can't be calling each other names at home and then your child learn these names and go out there and call everybody else that, but then everyone's in an uproar because someone of another color calls you that name. No, you don't have a problem with the name. You have a problem with who said it. And that's hypocrisy. You're not truly convicted by this name that you find it offensive. Oh, you can't say it because you're white, or you can't say it because you're Asian. That's not the right mentality to have. It's like you can't burn down my house because you're a different color, but a brown person can burn down my house because we're brown. That's ignorance. Some of the hardship that Black people are going through is because of other Black people doing this, going around being violent, being rude, being disrespectful, being lazy, being entitled, and some people just don't want to be bothered. They do not want to be bothered to hire a Black person, no matter how qualified they are, because they are not up to the whole NAACP stuff that's going to come up if they are giving someone a well-deserved correction or have to take administrative measures. Now they're going to say, oh, it's because I'm Black. Let's talk about it's because I'm Black. People need to stop saying that. People need to stop crying racism for everything. Stop crying wolf. Because what happens is there are people who are really experiencing racism. And if you cry racism because someone just corrects you, you're late and you've been late. And the person talks to you, oh, they're racist. Someone corrects you, oh, they're racist. Oh, they're racist. And then a Black person corrects you, oh, you acting white. This is a lowbrow level of thinking. So you have to think about the person who's really experiencing racism, and they feel like they have to be silent now because they're seeing that this word is just being thrown out for everything. People that's really experiencing racism are the ones that you see being killed, the ones that are being strung up by their feet like there's some chicken somewhere in the Middle East. There are people who are really being hung and quartered and kidnapped, and their organs are being cut out of them. That's racism. That's hatred. And we have to realize everybody's not going to like us. And we will be doing someone a disservice, someone who's really experiencing this, a great disservice, when everyone keeps saying racism, 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 and here's someone really going through it, and they're not going to be taken seriously because everything is racism. Any form of correction is racism. And there is this, it's almost like a deliberate will to be obtuse. You don't want to hear anything. What I notice with people who are always crying racism, when you sit them, if they're on a panel or something, they start talking, you try to talk some sense to them, they don't listen. The people who are always crying racism and being so aggressive, when you sit down with them and you try to have a conversation, they can't listen. They talk over you, they go off on this tangent, and they're just full of anger. Really. Change begins within yourself. You can't always be blaming white people for everything. Because truth be told, there's a lot of black people. Black people are being given so much more stuff than any other race. Let's talk about in the United States. Athletes, celebrities, there's a melting pot. Athletics, black people are on the map with that. I don't see too many Chinese people. I don't see too many Native American people on these teams and hip hop stars or whatever. A lot of people's being given that platform. There's a lot of people who's doing well and thriving and educated. So this is why you can't call racism for everything, because there are too many educated black people who are doing well. You can't call racism for everything, for the reason why you can't thrive, because there are people that comes from other countries enter the United States and surpass you. I'll tell you, our family has come from Jamaica, and we don't look down on people. You know Jamaicans, we cool. But my family, they didn't come from poverty per se. They didn't. Wasn't poor. My cousins, I remember my older cousins going to school. They went to a very good school. Okay? And they were smart. I was still too little. I was like in elementary school, probably before that. And I came here in America when I was 8. But my parents, my family, I know them to be working people. My relatives, my aunt, my cousins and uncles, I know them to be working people. Educated, and they built on their education. And I would tell you, I don't talk a lot about my family and things on social media, but they're doing very well. The white man did not stop them. And they did not have to sell out themselves. So there's an excuse of you're either sell out or is the white man. No, because there's people darker than you. They're Indian people. There's people that comes from Mumbai, darker than a black person, that has restaurants. There are people from the Middle East that's come in doing stuff. There's people that comes from Africa that opens businesses. So it cannot be true about racism is holding us down, because then there are other people who are doing better than a lot of black Americans. And then there are also other black Americans who are exceeding and who are doing well, who had very hard beginnings, who grew up without their parents, who did not know how to read and write. I could see this lady in my mind. She was a star, or she started How to Get Away with Murder. She has a tremendous story of her beginnings, and she did well. So this racism stuff is not an excuse. The white man is not the one that's holding a lot of you guys back. It's yourself. White man, don't call me the N-word, but brother man, it's okay. White man, you're killing us, but okay, it's okay. You will ignore the screams and the beatings. You're not going to intervene. We're the strong black men to intervene and get that man off of that woman. Where is the community when a child is being abused? How many people just turn up the volume of their TV shows or ignore the cries and the bumps and the screams of a child because it's none of your business? So it begins in your own house. Racism exists, but it is not, you are not living in countries where they can come in and just carry out mass genocide. And more often than not, guys, it is just something to hold on to, in my opinion, to either incite anger and rage, because there's people who are hateful and angry, and also for an excuse for why they're not doing better. Let's talk about black businesses. Now, when I see a black business open, I get excited because it's rare to see. When I say black business, like black American business, I'm excited about this because I'm used to seeing Africans own stuff. I'm used to going and seeing Jamaican restaurants. I'm used to going and seeing, an Indian restaurant. I'm used to going to these places and seeing this. I'm used to seeing Chinese stores. I grew up in New York, so there was, we're used to seeing a Chinese restaurant on the corner. I mean, we go there, I'm getting my chicken wings and french fries. That's what's my thing. Chicken wings and french fries. And then another one, my other favorite, was half a chicken with fried rice. Oh my gosh. Only people from New York is going to get this. You go in there and you get that soda with it. Oh my gosh. So we used to seeing the Italians in the corner. We used to seeing, the supermarket. It was like C-Town or Pathmark, but I think C-Town was the one. It was like people from the Middle East owned that place. And, we go around and be like, hey, what's up? Saying, hey, what's up to the Italians. So I'm used to going around and seeing, but I did not see a lot of black Americans with any business. And so when I did, I was very excited. So going to the restaurant, and there's just a few things I experienced. Beautician, of course. I'm used to seeing a black salon. But let me talk about the restaurants first. Going in there, subpar service. If you have a concern, you get an attitude, or the cook didn't show up yet, or just something. Just the service is not flowing. I've gone to places, karate class, karate business. The way payments and business was being done was not right. Online business, okay, order something. I think only 1 or 2 times it's just been right. But other than that, pay, don't get your product yet, no one's calling you back, getting an attitude, giving you excuses. That has nothing to do with me. I paid you. Go to black places on the black side of town, going to get some service done. Everybody's in there just doing a bunch of stuff. So I have to go driving. Why do I have to go drive across to certain parts to get better service? This is stuff that I'm talking about. Now I live in an area, it's different. I don't have to, it's just different. It's just a melting pot. But there are times where I would make up in my mind that I'm going to drive 15 minutes up the road because I'm not going to this place. Or if I'm hungry, I know I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to have to wait till I get back into my area to get good service. So sometimes people will say people don't want to do business with one another, but a part of it also can be the service, the rudeness. Sometimes people have a nice business, but the way they treat one another, the way you treat your customers, your clients, the way you do things when someone walks into your business. I've walked into barbershops with my son, black owned, looking good. I mean, the place looks nice. You walk in, they're sitting in the chairs on their cell phone. They hardly greet you. They talk to you. Oh, what you need? Excuse me? I don't want any of that. But if I go to a place where it's non-black, the level of customer service is different. And sometimes what happens, some people, the more wealth they gain, the less courtesies they have. And I've traveled enough and I've seen enough, still need to travel more, to see this behavior is kind of universal. Because I've been across the seas, lived overseas, and see certain behavior with brown people against other brown people. I've gone somewhere, no one, I walk in, they don't greet me, I'm looking around, they look away from me, but then as soon as a white person comes in or a super light person, ooh, the back molars are showing and they're giving them all the service. And I had more than enough money to spend, but I don't spend there. I don't spend there. So the disrespect, sometimes you guys can't thrive because you have poor customer service. You can't thrive because the way you do business is shady, because sometimes brown people behave in this way. Like, some of you are so needy for money that you want to give them, you want the money, but you don't want to work. Some of you. So you can't thrive, you can't do well. So your brown people are not trying to spend money on with you guys because they know I can go over here to this mechanic and get proper service versus going over here where it's black owned, but there's all this, they want to get buddy with you, they don't feel like you should be complaining, or they are not getting the job done where I can get stuff done professionally. And the more you go through life and in the world and you see more, the more you just can pick up on, what's foolishness. And some people are so sheltered, they're in their own, they stay in their own zip code, their own area code, whatever, and they haven't seen a lot. So when you, as someone that's been overseas, lived in different places, and you have certain expectations of them, they think that you are trying to be rude, you're trying to be demanding, you're trying to act like you're all that. So what ends up happening, there's a polarization that's going to happen where most black people who reach a certain level of wealth or doing certain things, they have to go over now to another group, mostly with the white people and other black people of middle upper class and beyond. And now there's these black people over here saying that y'all are sellouts. But no, a few things begin to happen. When some black people go on and they succeed, they work hard to do what they need to do. When they're trying to deal with black people, a few things begin to happen. There's an expectation that because you have money, that means you need to always give me money. Someone always have a need. It's different when you start to succeed and get some money. The needs get different. People, instead of people asking you for $100, you're asking if you can buy a bus for the church. So what happens is sometimes that person ends up having to move further away because either the old friends they used to have are trying to always get a handout, or when they bring them around the new environment of the people, they embarrass them through their behavior, how they're talking. So they have to separate. Sometimes people end up marrying people outside of their race, not because they hate their own, while some do. I've done a video about that. But some end up doing that because the pickings get very slim, and there's a certain behavior and mindset that certain people will have. So they end up having to date within their own social class. Let's just put it like that. It's not because they don't want somebody, but it's the way that they're treated. They're being teased, they're being called certain names. From before they became successful, they were being called certain names, because a lot of times kids that are going to end up becoming successful, sometimes they're just oddballs from they were younger. They always want to do something different, or at some point in their life they turn around and say, I want to do something different, and they get attacked by their own. And they will be trying to be friends, but they're not accepted by their own people. So they begin to do well, do better, exceed in education.
I realize I've been saying exceed in education, but I'm actually meaning to say excel, even though technically you can use exceed, but okay.
And you get around another group of people where they're not attacking you for your skin, where they actually think that your skin is beautiful. Don't get me wrong, racism exists everywhere. But racism in Europe is different from racism over here. Racism that you may see in Asia is going to be different. As a matter of fact, in Asia, when you live in Asia, they're going to ask you direct questions. They're going to ask you about your skin. They're going to ask you about your hair straight out. They're just going to ask you stuff that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, but they're not being racist. They're really asking you a question. They just ask you directly. But let me stop there. I am not negating the horrors and the things that has happened to Black Americans. It's terrible. Terrible. People were hanging from trees. They were being lynched. People were being dragged out of their house. There's been men that served in the World War and came back. And was it the World War? No. Was it the Vietnam War? Anyway, came back and was killed by white people. I understand that. There's a horrible history, especially in the United States. It's terrible. But you know who else that happened to? Native Americans. You know who else that happened to? Japanese people. Do you know that they were in concentration camps? They set up tenements and camps and put these people in there. I believe it was President Eisenhower that did that. I think. Did you know that? What is important for Black people to do is to really study your history. Don't just stop at what the white man did. You need to go past that and really, really study history. You know, history could be reinvented. It was written by someone. Who knows if they were biased in their writings? But we have to see the whole story. There's a lot of talk about colonialism and this country and that country and who said this and that. But if you really study, you'll see that Africans were selling one another. And right now, there's a lot of things going on in Africa. People are like, oh, I'm moving to Africa. I'm moving to my homeland. That's fine. Just know when certain things happen, you're not going to have you're going to be able to run to the media and cry racism like you do in America. It's different. I'm not saying that there are no things in place, but it's different. And I know it's different because even Africans in certain parts of the continent, they complain about certain things, how things are done, how someone could just be butchered and killed and all this stuff. And sometimes nothing happens, and it takes an uproar and media attention to make things happen.
And I'm not talking about white people doing something against Black people, but Africans against Africans. A lot of things that take place that get swept under the rug because of who a person is, or the police are just not going to do anything about it.
But study things. And don't just believe stuff that people tell you. Know beyond what you learn in elementary school, because and not just in these biased books that's all about trying to hate white people. Because what I see is that brown people, a lot of them hate themselves. And they hate people like myself who will put this out on the table. I'll be called a token whatever, white man, bootlicker, all this stuff. I'm going to be called names. And that's the reason why it's going to be hard for Black people to be elevated, because there's this hostility, aggression, just want to be obtuse, I want to believe this. But you guys are tearing each other apart. I don't teach my children to hate white people. I teach them to know someone by what they do and not what they say. People can make mistakes, but what they consistently do is what you pay attention to. And if you find that you have a better friend in a white person, or a better friend in an Asian friend, or someone other than your own, you're not obligated to just be best friends with someone because they're brown like you. If they don't have good character, and if they're not a person that you guys can grow together, and they're not jealous of you, and they're not wanting and mad because you have certain things. Sometimes there's just this competition between one another. And brown people will hate some other brown people because this person has a car and this person lives in this house, so there's this hatred and jealousy. And that's one of the things I really look out with my children's friends. I listen to anything that they say, because sometimes people can be jealous because of what you have or what your parents have or the affection that your parent gives you. And I teach them from that age, this is not a good friend if this is a consistent pattern of behavior. You see what I'm saying? There's been horrible things that's been done to black people. And I have a video that I've done that tells us to not be ashamed. Enjoy your beautiful brown skin. The most powerful force out there is a sun. And yet the sun does us no harm. Most other people can't stand in the sun and be in the sun. They'll just get red and burn. We don't. We have beautiful hair that can take different forms. It's in its most powerful form where it's short and kinky. You can't just yank out our hair when it's like that. And at the same time, if you put a certain amount of heat to it, it will get long and silky, just like any Caucasian hair. And when it's wet with the rain and water, it curls up again. When a man of color or anyone, man or woman, goes in water, they come up, the water sits like beads, like diamonds. That's what it looks like in the sun, just glistening in your hair. You have speed. You have abilities that's unsurpassed in most ways. So you have to begin to love yourself. And you have to go beyond. You have to go beyond the excuses and do your best. A lot of times people are not doing their best. They don't want to try. They drop out. And there are other circumstances and situations that may cause that. There are so many things that can cause it. You see what I mean? But, and I'm not going to negate that. But for the most part, I'm just saying that you have an opportunity to do better. And some people just don't want to do better. And then they want to talk about the white man, but they don't mind getting government check from the white man. And some people literally stay on welfare on purpose forever. Don't get off of it. And they talk about the white man's doing this and the white man's doing that. No, I dare say that is a lot of black people doing a lot of things to one another, starting in the home. A lot of black people abusing and mistreating their children, teaching their son how to, train up their sons like they're pit bulls, and they go to school and they are bullying people and causing problems, and the parents are intimidating the teachers. You send your child to school and they are just a problem and a nightmare all day long. The teachers can't teach, people can't do what they need to do, and other children are being delayed. Now, my take on that's a whole nother video. Because I feel like if parents are sending their kids to school and their children are in school causing problems all day long, every time they do that, they need to call the parents and come pick them up. And if the parents don't come pick them up, you call the cops, and the cops need to bring them to school or bring your kids to your house. Every time I'm going to call you off your job, you're going to come pick up your child. Because even then, because at that point, when you have to keep getting off work, you'll make the changes that you need to make with that child. Teachers should not be spending all day taking care of your child, disrupting the whole entire classroom, and somebody in there wants to learn, but because there's a child jumping on the desk and being disruptive, that child cannot learn. So you have one child that's keeping 14 other children from learning and a teacher that's stressed out. No, we need to call the parents in from the job or send them home. And if anything, start looking at the parents. Why is this child misbehaving? Something's going on. But I'm not in charge of anything, so it is what it is. So guys, I'm going to stop. This video is long, but if you've gone this far with me, then I know that you're really invested in change and seeing the things that I'm saying. If not, and they stop at 20 minutes, it's amazing. People don't believe they're worth an hour. Or you sit and you watch all kinds of stuff, or you watch stuff back to back, seasons of stuff on Netflix. Most of these shows are like 45 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes. I don't know why TV shows are so long. I'm like, what happened to the days when they were just like when they were like maybe what, 40 minutes or at least just 1 hour tops? But geez, 30-40 minutes, an hour and change, but you guys will sit there. But change begins with us. Start boycotting these shows and boycotting and or demanding change for these lyrics. How nice would it be to hear some rap and some other type of stuff that doesn't have these vulgarities in it and these derogatory terms in it? Would that completely disarm and disable anybody? Do you have to use curse words? Do you have to refer to a woman as a bee and a hoe? Do we have to use the N-word? Change begins when you, as a man, are willing to stand up, and when you see a brother attacking a sister or anybody, whatever race, instead of standing there and recording it, that you guys step in and you stop them. When you hear a mother abusing her children, sisters, you get in there and you stop her, and you be okay with calling the police. You teach your sons how to speak to one another with respect and not call each other the N-word, and to respect their sisters, respect the girls, and the girls need to learn how to respect the boys and not trying to trap them and not trying to be rude and loud, and learn how to fight men. Change begins with us. Encouraging your children. Black people, from all I know, you've been the most spiritual ones, believing in the Lord. Now, a lot of people have veered away from that, but I believe in the Lord Jesus. That's who I pray to. Some of you want to pray to this person and that person. Whoever you praying to, why are you so angry still? Now, I serve the true and living God. And some of you may scatter when I say this, but regardless of what you believe or don't believe, I believe the content that I spoke about today is relevant, despite what you may believe. So I don't blame white people for anything, because there are too many black people that's successful despite the white disparities. I'm not going to blame anyone for taking my opportunities, because people coming from other nations and doing and surpassing. Yes, there are people who gets away with things, but then there's also countless cases and other people who are not getting away with things. And black people are on the map on most things than most other races. TV, sports, entertainment, for sure. And doing well and thriving. And there are people who came from nothing who are doing well and who are successful, and it has nothing to do with the white man stopping them. The white man was still around, racism was still around, all of that. They just did what they need to do. So stop blaming white people. It is an excuse. either to be angry, it is an excuse to be stagnant, it is an excuse to be lazy, or just an excuse to want to hate and go against other people. Because while people are talking about white extremists, there are black extremists. And I am not joining forces with people who are violent, who talks terrible about other people. I don't want that. Who operate in this blind rage and being mad. I don't want to be in none of that, because anger and people like that, they're changeable. And they can be running with you now and turn around and rip you to threads. Angry people have no sense. And I will not join forces with that. So just something to think about, guys. You can go back and talk about history. You were not there, though. You were not there. And the final thing that I do want to say, if you've come this far, there are a lot of people who were living during the times where black people were hanging from trees. And you know what? They got their education. They removed themselves from certain places, had to run, had to hide. Some of them left their families behind. Their families were killed, and they did well, and they exceeded. We know about Frederick Douglass. And you know what? We don't know about too many. Why? George Washington Carver. Because a lot of times in history books, there's a programming there. You read more about slaves that ran away and got caught, or people who are uneducated, but you don't read about those who made certain inventions, like the one who actually created potato chips. We were not taught that George Washington Carver was the one that actually came up with peanut butter, and he's the one that taught people how to how agriculture and farming and all these different things, and all the things that he created, peanut oil and all the stuff. We don't know that. You don't know about scientists, and you're not taught about those who were medical doctors, because those things are not being pushed in schools. And I agree, those things, textbooks and stuff, it needs to be changed. Because all black people see is that, we were mostly slaves, we were hung by trees. Frederick Douglass was a slave. He escaped. He did some things. George Washington Carver, okay. But you had no idea. I know I had no idea until educating myself later on, realizing that black people had contributed to so many things and were smart. You didn't know there were black pharaohs. We're not taught that. We're just taught that we're just some, y'all were slaves and we gave you the opportunity to be rich. So understand those things happen, but despite those things, you don't live in those times. And none of those things are going to stop you from exceeding.
There I go again, saying exceeding. The word that I meant to say, guys, is stop you from excelling.
Even with lesser education and not getting the best books, when you have it in your mind to learn and to succeed, God will help you to succeed. And there are too many people who is living proof, to include those who were from those times, who exceeded and excelled and did well and was not blaming white people, but made a determination that I'm going to succeed, I'm going to do well, I'm going to be different. And we read about them today. We don't want to keep reading about people in the newspaper and online doing all types of stuff. The white man didn't put the gun in your hand. The white man is not the one that's beating your wife. The white man is not the one beating up on the children and the husband. The white man is not the one raping young girls. Y'all are doing that. Lots of black men are doing that. The white man is not the one that's making music about the N-word and all the stuff. They just produce they just sell what you produce. And there are people that's willing to get paid for calling each other out their name. So we can't blame white people. Racists are out there, but they are the minorities. They really are. It is personal choice, a personal mindset, personal behaviors, and wanting to be victims. And as long as you want to be victims, you're going to be angry. As long as you want to come up with a black hate group and displaced anger, frustration with life, frustration with where you are, jealousy, different things, you're going to blame the white man. This is all I have today. And thank you for listening.